That was a very powerful piece. It was beautifully acted by Mr. DeVita. It's certainly hard to follow up on that. Because I represented two police officers who were shot in Milwaukee in a case against a gun dealer, I got to understand an awful lot about the law of guns. I got to understand an awful lot about what happens in this country, the statistics that underlie so much of what we hear and read about guns. And I thought I'd share some of that with you tonight. First of all, I thought it was rather important to understand that, at least in this particular play, guns were seen at some point as a solution. The gun was seen as a solution by Andy to the mugging of his wife and the fear that invaded their home as a result of it. And Caroline, because of the affair that fell apart, saw a gun as a solution. And we saw Robbie. And Robbie thought that the gun was a solution. And a gun really can't be a solution, but it's there and it's easy and it's pervasive in our society. You know, I found out a little something today that I Googled it, and there's 200 smartphones in this country. 200 million. There's 310 million firearms in this country. They're readily available. There are 30,000 deaths a year from guns, 90 a day. 60 of those 90 are suicides. So let's ask ourselves, we have a problem. Does the law help address the problems that we see? Well, the criminal law doesn't really help that much in this sense. It's after the fact. It's after the shooting. It's after the homicide. It's after the injury by the gun. So let's take a look at what the civil law might be. Now, all of us here have heard about background checks. And many people in this country, when surveyed, say background checks are really important and we need to have more of them because they will help solve a problem. Well, they will, but not nearly as much as you may think. First of all, background checks under the law are only required to be done if it's a federal firearm licensed dealer that's selling the gun. If it's a private sale, there's no background check that's being done. And what is the list of prohibited purchasers that you cannot sell if they fail the background check? Well, it's very limited. Very limited. It's going to be a felon. It's going to be someone from a domestic abuse that's got a misdemeanor against them. It's going to be someone adjudicated mentally ill. But if you have someone that goes into the gun store and they happen to be a member of a gang and they have misdemeanor convictions for drugs, they're not a prohibited purchaser. They're going to pass a background check. If you're going to have someone that's engaged in domestic abuse and violence but they haven't been found guilty of a misdemeanor of that, then they're a legal buyer. They're not a prohibited purchaser, so background check won't stop that gun from getting in that person's hands either. And there's a straw buyer. Straw buyer is an individual who goes into the gun store because they will pass the background check and they're going to buy the gun and they're going to give it to the person that's prohibited. And if you have a prohibited purchaser that says, I'm not going to go through all this, I'm going to go get it from a private dealer, all they have to do is go on the internet. All they have to do is go to Arms List, for example, which is nothing more than eBay. You post, I need a gun, and another one posts, I have a gun to sell to you. No background check, a sale is made. That's how the man who shot his wife and two other people at the Azana Spa got the gun. He just went on the internet and arranged for a private sale. So a background check is not necessarily going to answer a lot of the questions, is not necessarily going to be a solution. Well, if there's no solution and we have so many guns, then maybe the solution to the problems that we have is to be able to buy our own guns and protect ourselves, like Andy wanted to do. But you know, the statistics show that once that gun enters a household, that the risk of someone in that household dying from a gun goes up 90% over a household that has no gun. And you know that the number of justifiable homicides in this country where you used the gun to kill somebody because it was self-defense, whatever, that's 240 in the year 2012, last number I have. 240 for the entire year. There's 60 suicides a day. That is 4 times, 4 days. That's the same number as justifiable homicides. So what's the answer? There is one thing out there that the law won't let people do, though. There's immunity to manufacturers. There's such a thing as a smart gun. If you buy a smart gun, Only you are the one who can use it. If smart guns were mandated by Congress, which isn't going to happen, then there would be no one that could go into Columbine and do the shooting. There'd be no straw buyers. But smart guns are not mandated by law, and manufacturers are immune from suit, claiming that a smart gun is the only reasonable way to manufacture, design, and sell a gun. So I leave you with this thought. When it comes to the law dealing with gun violence and with gun possession, the only law that really applies is the law of unintended consequences. Once you think you can control that gun, then you're one step away from the type of tragedy that was in this play tonight. Thank you.